Good evening, everyone. I'm Leah Cooper. Thanks so much for tuning in. A meeting between the government and a few gaming operators that are not compliant with new gaming taxes is scheduled for this weekend, according to Attorney General Carl Bethel. This after Tourism Minister Dionisio de Aguilar told reporters that 70% of operators were compliant with the law. Now, the AG declined to say what will happen to operators if they continue to not pay their taxes.
I would not wish to rattle the saber at this point. There's always a resort to nuclear options at a later stage. Okay, we're in discussions. We have a meeting for this weekend, so we'll see what goes.
Last week, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance Peter Turnquest told reporters that the government was down some $5 million in gaming taxes. As a result, he says the government's projected revenue would be affected. A new tax regime came in effect January 1st, 2019, requiring all licensed gaming houses to pay 15% on $0 to $24 million of revenue, and operators earning anything greater than $24 million will pay 17.5%. Based on the increased tax rate, the government expected to collect approximately $35 million in taxes. Bahamas Power and Light's counting on the return of an engine to significantly bolster its generation capacity and stability. But until that happens, the intermittent power outages throughout the country will continue. You see, the companies explaining in a statement that unplanned and unexpected challenges developed over the past week at both Clifton and Blue Hills power stations affected its energy supply, adding that the return of this unit will go a long way towards improving the present situation. Ongoing routine maintenance activities are expected to wrap up in June. Now, BPL also sourced 25 megawatts of additional rental generation for its Blue Hills power station. These are being installed and will begin to come online at the end of the month. BPL also indicating that it's engaged in additional technical services to first expedite the diagnosis and repair of the remaining generators and to provide additional operational and maintenance assistance to supplement its teams. This assistance, it says, is already on the ground and has begun the necessary assessments. BPL expressing its regrets over the present situation, but that it's working to resolve the issues and seeking to minimize the disruption to its customers by scheduling any needed load shedding appropriately. BPL has scheduled a press conference for Friday morning. Cabinet's in discussions about the water sports business with the intention of returning with an answer to a request made by a number of jet ski operators on Cable Beach. According to Transport Minister Renward Wells, here's what's the issue.
In essence, that they were promised licenses by the former administration, return of their licenses that they had when they were at the Nassau Beach, okay, a number of them that they have not yet received. And as minister, I have promised to investigate that situation, and if that's the case, then we'll be looking as to how we can ameliorate that situation.
The minister was at the time refuting claims that the moratorium on licensing of jet skis had been lifted. The issue coming to the forefront after Vice President of the Cable Beach Water Sports Association, Pedro Bannister, last week expressed concerns that Mega Resort Bahamas was renting watercraft to its guests, posing a huge threat to small businesses in an industry reserved for Bahamians. There's a proposed change on the table for Police Staff Association Act. What's being considered is an extension to the tenure of PSA's board from 1 to 2.
Normally after the elections, it takes a few months it takes a few weeks for the officers to organize themselves, choose who's going to be the chairman, and then there's the courtesy call on the Commissioner of Police, the courtesy call on the Governor General, the courtesy call on the Minister of National Security. And before you know it, Mrs. Speaker, 6 months has passed and the officers are still just getting used to what it is they are mandated to do, just getting into the actual work of the association. And next thing you know, 3 months later, they are planning a new set of elections because their tenure is for 1 year.
Speaking from experience as a former police officer, mover of the bill, Southern Shore's MP Frankie Campbell further reasoned that 2 years would give the PSA's newly elected board time to become familiar with their new duties.
Sufficient time to form the necessary partnerships, sufficient time to seek the advice and the counsel of their members and to truly determine what it is their members wish for them to represent, and then have actually a little over a year to get some work done.
Opposition leader Philip Davis said his party had no objection to the proposed amendment in principle.
But I ask that the elected leadership, that they continue to work to promote and inculcate a culture of independence, propriety, and neutrality.
The PSA represents the lower ranks of the Royal Bahamas Police Force. Its current executive chairman is Sonny Miller. You're watching JCN News. Stay with us.
This segment of the news was brought to you by Alive.